All right, finally sitting down to do additional thoughts for Straight Outta Compton by N.W.A. Got a little sidetracked due to the Kendrick drop and Thanksgiving, and this time of year in general is pretty busy for me, honestly. So a little delayed, but here we are. I did not get a lot of listens. I only got, I think, 3, maybe 4 listens total, like from top to bottom. I did listen to it yesterday on my way home from the desert. I went out dirt biking and stuff with my dad and some friends and stuff, and that was great. And I did notice, because there was once I gave it a full listen when I was at work, and then driving home yesterday as well. And I was surprised because it did grow on me. And initially, I remember during the reaction thinking, okay, yeah, this is cool to listen to, and you can tell it's a different time, and you can tell hip-hop has evolved wildly since 1988, as it should, right? As expected. But as I kept listening to it, the few times that I did, every time I put it on, I would go in thinking, oh, it's going to sound old, and I'm not going to be that into it, and whatever. And every time it surprised me. It honestly did surprise me. Not like a lot, but just enough. I went, oh, well, you know what? I am kind of into this. Like, yeah, there's things where maybe the flows aren't as complex and interesting as they are today, and maybe the beats sound a little dated, and maybe they're saying some things where socially you probably couldn't pull that off in today's climate. But it's still a pretty good album, and one thing I wrote down is, like, it's not a surprise to me that Dre went on to just blow up and Cube went on to do his thing and be successful. And, these guys that made this group, they're all pretty talented at what they were doing. The one big note I have, though, is Ice Cube's anger and how important it is to hear his anger. Like, I remember when the first listen on I Ain't the One. Right, you can listen to that song and go, okay, this is pretty misogynistic, and easily dismiss it if you want to. But I think with songs like "Fuck the Police," "Dope Man," and "I Ain't the One," where Ice Cube is really just pissed off, it's easy to almost dismiss those songs as just being gangster rap or whatever. But to me, especially knowing his quote about how people are all upset about the things that we're saying in our songs, but no one's really upset that we're just talking about our lives. Like, you should be more upset that we live this way because this is how things have become, rather than the fact that we're saying this in our music, And so with I Ain't the One especially, the anger in Cube's voice is important because to me it makes it actually mean something rather than a song that's just kind of talking shit about, pulling a fast one on the ladies and getting them in bed, but they don't get my money because I can't fall for that shit. Because that song could be presented in a lot of different ways, and the presentation of that song really shapes what is happening in the song, to me, anyway. If he was being all braggy about it, it's a totally different experience. But he's got like this, like, shout, And it's not a happy shout. It's a pissed off shout. And it's like a step down from Dope Man. Dope Man, he does the same thing, but he's pissed. And same thing in Fuck the Police. That's why these 3 songs, I feel like they're very much related to each other. And it's just this rage. This rage of why the fuck? Why the fuck are the cops always fucking with me? Just because I look this way. Why can't I just find a girl who just wants to be with me rather than just trying to siphon money out of me constantly? How in the world did it ever get to be that people in my neighborhood who I know are selling these drugs to the people they know who we used to be friends with or whoever? I mean, I'm extrapolating a little bit. Obviously, it doesn't say this specifically in the lyrics, and he knows it's going to kill him. And he knows they're going to get hooked on this shit. And he knows that they've got kids. And these girls go up to him and they know they're going to get, the shit beat out of them, and they're only just trying to get his money and all, and just the fucking rage. And I think it's so important. It's so important. It's to me, like, I have a hard time. You guys have seen me have a hard time with gangster rap and the lyrical content that exists in some of these albums. But this one kind of comes alive in a sense, where what Cube is talking about and how he feels about it, and the fact that he's, back then when this was kind of blowing up and they were getting all this heat from the FBI and censorship and the police shutting down their shows and all that kind of shit, like I feel like I can listen to Ice Cube and I can just feel the layers of frustration stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking. And no wonder you're so pissed off. No wonder. And I think that's what makes this album pretty special. Another thing, too, that I noticed as the album grew on me a bit was sometimes some of the beats, especially the production, right? Like you can listen to it and go, okay, this sounds old. Oh, what was it? Like 8 Ball. Sounds a little old. Whatever. But there are times when, yeah, you can hear Dre kind of shining through a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, there's something here. Like, parental discretion is advised. Has a cool beat. I've Got a Heart next to, oh yeah, Express Yourself is another really good one. That's a good one too. Quiet on the Set, I enjoyed. Obviously, Straight Outta Compton, Fuck the Police. Classic songs. Fuck the Police is amazing. I hope those of you who watched the reaction, I hope you took up the suggestion of listening to Rage Against the Machine's version, because they do a good job too. But yeah, and another thing too with this album, I mean, this doesn't kind of apply to the album, but the fact that I've also been listening to Love Deluxe by Sade, which came out in 92. I mean, these two albums are only 4 years apart. And I'll talk about this more in that video. Probably do that one tomorrow. But it's interesting how different the sound is. Because to me, I put this one on, I go, okay, yeah, you can tell. It's from 88, early 90s, something like that. Okay. It's a little bit older. But with Sade, it's like, holy shit, man. The sound's incredible. And it's just funny how there's totally different things happening in music, almost about the same time. And I know this doesn't relate to Straight Outta Compton. I'm kind of blurring to additional thoughts here. But yeah, it was cool. I'm glad I finally sat down with it. I do want to check out Ice Cube's Predator album. Actually, just before I started recording here, I just did like a quick scroll. I don't know how big of an album it is. I know it's got a couple big hits, but then it looks like the streams on the rest of the songs, there's not a whole lot. So maybe it's not like a huge album, but I think I will probably sit down with it someday just to check it out. His debut album. I think that was his debut, Predator. I believe so. I didn't double check. I'm assuming that's his debut. But it'd be cool to check that out. It'd be cool to revisit Chronic. I know Chronic 2001 very, very well, so I can't like do a re-listen on that, but it would be cool to sit down and do a revisit reaction to Chronic, the original Chronic, because I haven't listened to that in years. And I know there's some great tracks on that one too. And just kind of, experience the spin-off from Straight Outta Compton. And I think, I don't know this group's history that well. I did see there was a couple more albums, so I think maybe they stuck together, but I'm basing my knowledge off of the movie. So I have no idea how accurate that is. Straight Outta Compton, the movie, it tends to kind of focus on this album in the aftermath from that album, and then things go to shit and everybody kind of goes their own ways. I don't know how true that is, but anyway, all that to say, definitely want to check out more Ice Cube. Need to do a revisit on Chronic, the original Chronic, because I haven't heard it forever, and it would be mostly new, I assume. I don't know. I did a revisit for that what was it, Black Sunday by Cypress Hill, and that whole video was just me going, oh yeah. Which is fun. That's fun to do too. Okay, yeah, there you go. Cool album, man. And for this to hit in 1988, I can see why it's such a big deal. And I'm not trying to say that these were the only guys to ever do gangster rap or anything like that, but I can see why they got so much heat. Like, holy shit, yeah. You say this back then, almost 40 years ago, people were like, no, those are all the bunch of naughty words. You can't say that. That's terrible. Just terrible. Okay, y'all. Take care. We'll see you soon.